From the time that you start playing in Little League as a pitcher to the day that you are done with baseball, there is one very common theme. You would think that the theme is winning and being competitive, but in reality, for a pitcher, that theme is to throw hard. Nowadays, they teach throwing hard is better than having nasty pitches, when in reality, this is not the case even at all. This brings me into the 2023 Marlins, because they started their season off with one of the top rotations in the sport, but have since then been diminished. The 2022 Cy Young winner, Sandy Alcantara, is currently unfortunately trending towards Tommy John surgery and has been awful in 2023. For a team that was heavily dependent on such a talent, you can't replace a guy like that. The worst possible outcome so far is happening with this injury, and he's now having forearm tightness and a UCL sprain, which led up to him being shut down for the rest of the season. As we know, baseball's a team sport unlike any other sport. Therefore, one player doesn't dictate your season. But when multiple players start going down, yeah, that's a completely different story. They called up a pitcher by the name of Yuri Perez earlier in the season, and he ended up pitching 91 innings and had a 3.15 ERA. Yuri was awesome in about every way that you could possibly be as a pitcher at 20 years old. But a week ago, it was announced that Yuri Perez is now going to be out for the season with back pain. Now, how did he get injured at such a young age, you may ask? Well, it's pretty simple. This is a situation for a young pitcher who was consistently being eager to prove himself, which ended up pitching through back pain because he didn't want to go ahead and put in the overworked bullpen. Yeah, you heard that right. Basically, he tried to save the Marlins, and instead, he ended up getting himself injured. So now let's look. You lost one pitcher in Sandy Alcantara to velocity. You lost another super talented pitcher because he didn't want to hurt your bullpen. The Marlins are in a rough spot. So how are you going to bounce back? That is the question that we all have for the Marlins right now, and we'll find out tonight. But to get a proper answer, we have to look back at another team that has been plagued with something very similar. But this team has been a top team in baseball, unlike the Marlins, aka the Rays, a team that literally lost 4 different very good starters in that rotation, yet have managed to stay competitive somehow. And if they could do it, could the Marlins? Well, the reason that the Rays were able to sustain their success is due to pitching depth, whereas the Marlins have some of the worst pitching depth in the league, meaning really the two teams are much, much different. And it wasn't just pitching depth at the MLB level for the Rays, but they also had guys in AAA that were eager for a chance to prove themselves. Which again, the Marlins have some of the worst pitching depth in the sport. So it really makes me question if they're going to be able to sustain that success in the postseason. Not to mention, they will likely be playing the Philadelphia Phillies. Actually, they are playing the Phillies tonight, as a matter of fact. And comparing the two teams, I like both teams a lot. But if we're going to be realistic, the Phillies have the depth on the team, and the starters as well. If it wasn't for the Marlins injuries, it could be a completely different story. Now, if you think that this is just like a Marlins slander video, I'm telling you right now, it's absolutely not. Because I love what the Marlins are doing right now, and I want to go ahead and tell you there are a bunch of positives. In September so far, we have seen quite a mix from the Marlins offensively, right? I mean, you're getting either no life from the bats or you're getting a very good ball game from them. So there's really no in between right now with the lineup. But specifically right now, this is their best chance to win. Josh Bell has really been heating up since August, and I really think he's going to unleash for the Marlins in this postseason. And speaking of another power bat, let's go ahead and talk about Jorge Soler. Because him hitting with Luis Arias coming back and he's hitting freaking great, yeah, okay, that's going to be a nasty lineup in the postseason. If you can get Arias hitting and you could also continue Jorge Soler's massive success, you're going to be in an incredible ballpark. Because Soler has had his best month of the whole season in September, and one thing is for certain, the Marlins desperately need all of their guys to be hitting this postseason. Because they're going to be going up against Aaron Nola, and they're going to be going up against Zach Wheeler. And by the way, both guys are incredible, but the Marlins have been known to hit around Aaron Nola pretty well. Wheeler, on the other hand, it has been a little bit of a struggle, so I will go ahead and say that. But the pitching for the Marlins is a completely different story, because right now for the Marlins, they're having a lot of trouble. Because looking in at the rotation, right now they actually have bullpen games because they don't have any starters. So what you will need to do is have Jesus Luzardo throw the game of his life and carry the rotation in a game against the Philadelphia Phillies. Because truth be told, He's the best guy in that rotation right now. Looking outside of Luzardo, let's go ahead and look at Braxton Garrett, because he's actually been great this year, putting up a 3.66 ERA and has been a key player to the rotation. The only bad part about Garrett's season is that he hasn't been great against the Phillies, and he hasn't been bad, but in 2 starts, he pitched 5 innings in both and gave up 3 runs in both. Again, not bad starts, but when your bullpen is awful and depleted, it's a completely different story. I mean, how are you going to win with only 5 innings of your starter and 4 with your brutal bullpen? I'm just not too sure that they're going to be able to hang on. If the Marlins get eliminated early this season, there is still one thing for certain. That thing is that the Marlins will be back next season. This team is far too young and talented and has a pretty nice open window right now. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already, and peace out.